Hey everybody, we're back with another video. I'm Brandon,
I'm Zeke.
and today we're going to be talking about several things. Primarily just focusing on Marvel. There's a lot of hot topics to talk about.
Hmm.
First of all, we're going to start off with the wrapping up of She-Hulk.
Yes.
Uh, I finished it a couple days ago. I know you finished it a couple days ago.
Yep.
What is your overall feeling of She-Hulk?
Okay, so first number that comes to mind, um, and
Rating 1 through 10, yeah.
yeah, 1 through 10. I give it like a 6.
A six. You know what? I give it a six too. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of people really hated this show, but it was funny several times. A lot of episodes that were throwaway, but overall, I felt like it was nothing new to bring into Marvel. But it was definitely just a fun, casual watch. I watched it with my girlfriend, so it was anything like too serious. But it was a fun watch.
Yeah, and like I think they did well in the beginning with establishing that this is supposed to be a legal comedy that you're supposed to sit down and enjoy, very much reminiscent of a 90s sitcom where it's like, yeah, you're going to get a guest appearance every week and have fun in that way, but don't be invested in the show if you think this is going to be where freaking Red Hulk comes out, or you're going to get the big Marvel epiphany, you know?
Yeah, no, and that's I think that's what really drove this show to kind of get viewers to really watch it constantly was to remind them that this show is not going to be this bigger picture show like Avengers or other bigger properties. It literally constantly, I mean, uh, She-Hulk literally told us several times
Hmm.
like, "Hey, just reminding you, this is not going to be something bigger."
Yeah.
And I felt like that level of meta was, well, I respected it. I really did.
Yeah.
And
I think it worked
after
out well.
yeah, it worked out pretty smooth.
And I think a lot of I guess the reason I would give it a 6 is because of the ending in large. Um, I think that the ending, even though yes, it's very cool because it was inspired directly by a She-Hulk comic in which she breaks the fourth wall and actually goes and yells at the writers of
At
the
the
comic.
writers, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like that's cool and all, but honestly, to me, it just took away from the idea that they had the opportunity to just write the show as they wanted and not to have that moment of apology. It wasn't necessarily an apology per se, but that moment where they had to pull out and say, yeah, this isn't what you expect, but too bad, kind of. It's like just tell the story that you've wanted to tell and you started to tell, and do
And
it confidently, you know?
yeah, no, 100%. And they could have definitely done that. I feel like they could have done that self-awareness meta where she says, "Hey, why isn't my show written better?" And they could have done that whole thing with Kevin, which I really liked that whole Kevin robot.
Mm.
It was really funny. It was a
It
fun
was
thing.
interesting.
It was interesting. It was the whole fourth wall breaking being brought into like the MCU feels very weird
Yeah.
because I feel like it really does kind of we've been exploring a lot of different realities in the MCU, whether it's the multiverse and stuff with everything going on Doctor Strange and Spider Man. So to kind of throw this other thing where this is real life, it feels too much. I feel like I maybe if this fourth wall breaking came out like 5 years later on in the future, I feel like it would have been more satisfying. But I feel like this is too much just for like a show being by itself on She-Hulk.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that they didn't even commit to it fully because if you think about it, it's like Kevin's just he's just a made up robot. You know, he's a made up AI. And it's not to say that they needed to have the actual Kevin Feige himself in that show, but it does take away from that idea. It's like, okay, they're actually addressing the producer, the head honcho of the whole Marvel universe, you know? And I guess to me it just comes down to the idea that yeah, they could have just continued on and to tell the story about to tell the legal comedy and the kind of day to day life struggle of Jen Walters as it was, and that's fine for people who are interested. I personally wasn't super invested into that, but I wasn't hating on it.
But it felt a little dissatisfying because there was a lot of things that were set up throughout the show where you think it's going to lead to something, and it kind of led to that big bombastic finale where she goes
Mm.
into the fourth wall breaking mode and addresses Kevin. And it felt like I was like, did I just waste all of that time watching all of those setups just for this big kind of like comedic, relief type ordeal where we knew she breaks the fourth wall, but this is the way that she was gonna end the show, just kind of like, hey, can you fix it better? She kind of pulled off a Karen. She pulled off the ultimate white woman mode, and she went to the manager and asked to fix it.
And and it's like, okay, I guess to me it just like there's the humor in that, and just like, oh, just write it better, and that's cool. But at the same time, it's being invested in the character and being like, well, actually, it wouldn't have been cool to just see that done in universe.
It was an imploded version of Deadpool 2's dialogue scene when Deadpool is talking to Cable, and Cable is addressing how he came into the past, and how he got there, and how he can only go back using several. Like I think he had like this tool or something. He can only go back several times.
Yeah.
And Wade, Deadpool, looks at the camera and says, "That's lazy writing." And it's like this comedic thing where it's kind of like
It's
they
acknowledging
they
it.
acknowledge it.
It's
Yeah,
funny.
it's funny, but it's really quick. But Marvel did. I mean, like with the MCU, She-Hulk, they literally did a whole episode that was even conclusion for the entire show based off that same principle joke.
Yeah, and it's just to me, I wish that they would have continued to tell that story and had the resolution with it being, we didn't need to see oh, what's that? What was the main? And that's the thing, is that it becomes pretty forgettable the way it ended to me to a degree. But the guy who ran the intelligentsia, um, they could have just made that the struggle, like she said, is like he's the problem. He doesn't need to have Hulk powers to be an enemy. They just needed to tell the story that he's just a crappy dude who's trying to ruin her reputation, and let that be the final conflict. And I guess that's the thing, is like the final conflict was made out to be about the writing of the show rather than the show's kind of goal of talking about that kind of problem they set up.
It also seemed like it was kind of a direct conversations towards the audience and their expectations, because it was kind of like, at the end of the day, a lot of Marvel fans, excluding myself, obviously we have Daredevil. We want to see a really cool Daredevil fight scene at the end too. But at the same time, we all know that it's She-Hulk. It's her own project. They really could have simplified this a whole lot, and they really could have just done that story like you mentioned with the
Hulk King.
The Hulk King.
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember his actual name.
So they could have done it with just regular, but once again, they just continued to go on with this runoff joke where they thought it was the fourth wall was going to be this the groundbreaking thing, and it was cool, but it wasn't. I think it kind of brought up more questions and more. And I'm not asking for like the specific quantum principles and what universe is this and like. But at the end of the day, I don't know. It does feel like it was just a little bit too much for the Marvel formula so far. And I know the MCU so far is going everywhere, and they're testing waters with all kinds of new stuff. But this one felt like a little too much.
Yeah. Yeah, but there are a lot of things that still did work with the show. I think that the cameos that they had, Daredevil specifically, I loved Daredevil coming in.
Yeah, Daredevil was awesome in this. I know a lot of people didn't like the transition that Daredevil had from the main show to this, but I thought this Daredevil was cool. I've only seen like parts of the first season and a lot of clips, but I can say that this Daredevil looks a lot happier, so that's a good thing.
Yeah,
I like a happy Daredevil.
And and that's the thing, is that he fit. It's still up in the air if it's the same Netflix series Daredevil or if it's a variant of his. But either way, just his relationship with Jen, it worked out really well, and you could feel the genuine chemistry between both actors, and it felt like a satisfying kind of romantic relationship where in some cases Marvel isn't very successful, as Jen pointed out, in achieving those romantic relationships. This one felt pretty good.
Daredevil was a very good character to go into the show, because it wasn't just him coming in giving his input on like, hey, this is what you got to do, be a superhero. It was kind of like, hey, this is what you got to do, maintain your sanity. You got to be fighting, the law. You got to be fighting. Not the law. Sorry, you got to be fighting.
You got to be
for the
fighting
people.
for the law.
Yeah, you got to be fighting for the law, for the people.
Yeah.
Well, and then you got to be fighting the bad guys out in the streets. So
yeah.
So it was really cool getting a lot of. There was a lot of dimension to Daredevil. It wasn't just, hey, here's another superhero in this superhero show. Come watch your show.
Yeah, and I think they made Abomination work really well because he had a pretty minimal involvement, but I think that was probably the best thing, and it was cool seeing the comedic kind of value coming out and being placed on him.
I loved Abomination until he was the main, like one of the main people of the forum that hated She-Hulk. I didn't understand
That
where that
did
even
seem
came
a
from. That
little
seemed
out
too
of the
much.
blue. Yeah.
I know we already talked about how a lot of the other things were kind of out of the blue with Hulk King becoming, Hulk from the synthesized blood and all that stuff, but that was one of the most weirdest ones. I didn't like there was nothing that even showcased that, maybe even like hinted at that. It was so out of the blue that I don't know. Maybe they were just trying to come up with more bigger problems to show in that last scene for like their fourth
Yeah.
wall breaking moment, but that one seemed kind of, and I understand that at the end of the day, he's a villain. Abomination's a villain,
Mm-hmm.
and so they had to, I guess, remind us that that's what he is, and he wasn't this. And it's interesting because I kind of liked rehabbed Abomination, but once again, he's the villain. He's a villain.
Yeah.
Abomination is a villain.
Yeah. So yeah, it was funny seeing him, and I guess we may see him more. Maybe he'll be freaking hanging out with American Chavez. But there, and then they had other kind of smaller superpower characters, which were fun appearances. But at the end of the day, I wish they would have given a little bit more explanation, specifically with Tatiana's character and everything like that.
Oh yeah, I don't really care for her at all. She was just a waste of a character.
Not forced in there, but just abrupt in a way. And then the final cameo.
Scar. What do you think about Scar? What do you think about our boy, our beefcake Scar?
I'm looking forward to the World War Hulk movie, which I guess they kind of they didn't confirm, but they
They
almost
kind
did.
of almost did. I
They
know Marvel
almost
likes to
did.
just throw things out in the air to see that hopefully someday in the future things catch on. Like, they
Yeah.
threw some Spider-Man references before they even like
Yeah.
had the Spider-Man before Disney even had the rights. So it is interesting about like where this could go, and I feel like they really are just kind of planting those seeds to pick the stick at Universal to kind of be like, hey, we're gonna be doing this soon. Like, whether you guys like it or
Well,
not.
that's apparently the rights do revert back to Disney, and it's possibly as soon as this year,
Oh, you hear that,
as
guys?
2023.
2023 is
Yeah.
going to be the beginning of conversations of a possible World War Hulk.
Yes, and I guess that's the thing is like you just said, even though they may not have the rights at this moment, the
They
fact
know.
that they know,
They
and
know.
they're preparing.
And that's just the
Yeah.
powerful system of Kevin.
And so I guess that's the thing is, do you think that if the World War Hulk movie does happen, is that where She-Hulk is going to appear next, or where do you think she'll appear next?
She's going to be an Avenger.
She'll be an Avenger.
She'll
Yeah.
be an Avenger, so I think she's going to be a part of like that main circle for a while. But I think the only other thing that she would branch off would be that World War Hulk, ties with Hulk, because at the end of the day, she's part of that Hulk family, and Hulk's kind of like that main. I mean, She Hulk is kind of. They're gonna make her, Ant Man and Wasp essentially.
To me, where I think she could appear next, honestly, is the Captain America 4 movie, possibly the Thunderbolts movie.
But yeah, that's pretty much all we're gonna be talking about today. Just some of the hot topics of the last couple weeks. But yeah, but thanks for listening. I'm Brandon,
I'm Zeke.
and this is Daily Boils episode 2, and we'll get back to you real soon.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Bye.